Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. I'd like to do a new book review. I love this book. It's called Sleep Smarter by Shawn Stevenson. As you guys can see here, it's actually one of my favorite books just because you guys know how big of a fan I am with regards to sleep and it's important. So I'd like to essentially go over the 21 tips that he presents to give you a better sleep. And I'll do like a couple of videos and will share with you all the references that he does in his book. It's called Sleep Smarter, 21 Essential Strategies to Sleep Your Way to a Better Body, Better Health, and Bigger Success. It's by Shawn Stevenson and it's foreword by Sarah Gottfried, which is a medical doctor. So it's just a good read for a book on sleep. There's another one, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker. That's also a classic and I highly recommend that one too, actually. So I'm gonna be reviewing, so Why We Sleep is more so the evidence behind why we need it, and this is more of a practical book to just tap into better sleep. And so I'll give you 3 of the first tips in this book and I will go over the references behind them. So you guys will probably are surprised, but the first tip to improve sleep is to know the value of sleep and to not sacrifice it. So the first way to improve it is by increasing your motivation. So you have to know the value. So sleep is a natural periodic state of rest of the mind and body, and it's so vital for the growth, health, and rejuvenation of all of the systems of the body, for hormone balance, for energy, for performance, for brain functioning, for your immune system, right? So it has so many of these benefits, and you're not getting them if you're not getting enough sleep. So you need to get enough rest. You need to get enough sleep to get this rejuvenating effect. Now, research shows that just after 24 hours of sleep deprivation, there's actually 6% less glucose going to the brain. And because of that, because there's less glucose to the brain, you want to eat more glucose. And guess what you're going to eat? Are you gonna eat healthy? No, you're gonna eat unhealthy, crappy, sugary, caloric food options. And the reason behind this is because there's actually less glucose going to your parietal and prefrontal cortex, which play a role in many functions, such as distinguishing between ideas, telling right from wrong, so this moral insight, as well as social control. And your prefrontal cortex is what governs your willpower. So because there's less glucose going to that region, your willpower goes down, and that prevents you from making really good decisions. So if your brain is not getting enough glucose, you're not going to make a good choice. You're just going to eat some ice cream or a bag of cheese puffs, as he mentions in the book. You're going to eat crappy sugary snacks. So getting less sleep means there's less glucose going to the brain, and you're not able to make good choices, and you're probably gonna crave shitty food, okay, to regain that glucose. So that's first of all. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine actually showed that worse sleep quality leads to worse grades and more dropouts from school. So that's the worst you can do for your child, because that can lead to him getting worse grades on exams and more likely to drop out from school. So sleep deprivation is that bad. Now, a study by Lancet showed that sleep deprivation actually makes you 14% longer to complete a task and 20% increase in error. So your efficiency suffers as a result of sleep deprivation. And lastly, our brain has its own blood-brain barrier. And researchers at Rochester Medical Center actually showed that there is actually a lymphatic system in the brain known as the lymphatic system. And it's 10 times more active when you sleep. And our brain cells literally shrink in size by 60% to make room for waste removal to be more efficient. So that waste removal is more efficient at this time. So they make room for this waste removal cleansing system by shrinking by 60%. That's what the researchers at Rochester found. So sleep is so important for growth, for rejuvenation, for all your body systems, as well as for making good decisions, to avoid cravings, as well as to improve your efficiency and performance in whatever it is that you're doing, as well as to detox your body from waste. So it has a lot of benefits. So that's the first tip, to know its value. The second tip he mentions is to get more sunlight during the day. preferably between 6 to 8:30 a.m. when the body is most responsive to sunlight. And this is so crucial. And I want you guys to repeat this after me. A good night of sleep starts from the moment when you wake up. Again, a good night of sleep starts from the moment you wake up. So sunlight actually affects our circadian rhythm. And we have this 24-hour clock that literally regulates all of our body functions. It's amazing. There's actually a group of nerve cells in the hypothalamus, and these are known as a suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. And this is like your master gland that regulates all the functions of your body. And sunlight causes our body to make serotonin, which is a hormone, a neurotransmitter, and it's important for happiness and well-being and just overall health. So sunlight is crucial for health as well. But the problem is that indoor lighting is actually 100 times less bright than outdoor lighting on a sunny day. And even a cloudy day is brighter than what we have indoors. So even if you go outside on a cloudy day, that's better than staying indoors for that sunlight because there's more natural light there. Now, there's a study that showed that office workers who didn't have access to windows actually got 173% less exposure to natural light, and as a result slept 46 minutes less during the night than those who had direct access to windows. That shows the importance of natural light exposure. And the experts from the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology show that serotonin actually gets converted to melatonin, which I'll talk about later. But melatonin is so important for sleep quality. So get your sunlight, because sunlight is so important for good quality sleep. Melatonin is made by a gland in our body called the pineal gland, and that improves sleep quality. And it's secreted naturally before bed as it gets darker outside. And we'll talk about later about how to maintain melatonin levels late at night. And the best way is, of course, to reduce light before bed, specifically blue light, as you'll see later on. But what happens is melatonin is like a youth hormone, and it decreases as we age, and that's why you get worse sleep as you get older. And proper light exposure during the day helps coordinate the proper rhythm of melatonin so that it's made before bed when it's supposed to be made. So again, getting daily sunlight, you're making serotonin, and that can be converted to melatonin. And so you're actually making more melatonin before bed when you need it through proper light exposure during the day, and you get better quality sleep. So definitely go outside and get your light. Cortisol is another neurotransmitter, a hormone, and it's considered as the ugly duckling, and it's viewed as the stress hormone, and it's made by the adrenal glands. But its proper cycle is very important, and it's actually what gives you energy and allows you to move in the morning. It helps wake you up, and sunlight ensures the normal cortisol rhythm. So that's why sunlight is so good. It helps you maintain that cortisol level in the morning when you want it to be high. And what's cool is that the Journal of Innovations in Clinical Neuroscience published that exposure to sunlight not only maintains that rhythm in the morning, but it also lowers cortisol at night when it's supposed to be low. And that's really important before bed, because before bed you don't want this anti-stress hormone. You want cortisol to be low before sleep. So sunlight is so important because it helps coordinate the melatonin level at night and cortisol level. So it keeps melatonin high and cortisol low. These are like the opposites, right? When one is high, the other is low. When one is low, the other is high. And sunlight just has a proper rhythm of both of these hormones when you need them. So make sure to get that sunlight exposure to maintain that melatonin before bed, and to keep cortisol low before bed, which is the proper combination of hormones to get a good quality sleep. The third tip is to avoid screens before bed, ideally 90 minutes before bed. So that's like an hour and a half. The reason why is because we get addicted. What happens when you seek something over the internet? You get this dopamine hit. You get this dopamine rush in your body that causes us to seek things. And then the opioid system rewards us and gives us that instant gratification. And so the internet is perfect for that, as there's always something to discover. And so you end up in this internet black hole because you always want to seek and find. And so when you go 5 minutes on the internet, it's never 5. It's more like half an hour or an hour or 2 hours. You can't stop, right? And so that's why it's better not to start before bed. So ideally 90 minutes before bed, give yourself a screen curfew. Now, artificial blue light at night actually triggers your body to make more daylight hormones like cortisol. which causes you to wake up when you should be sleepy. Researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston showed that nighttime iPad readers take longer to fall asleep, feel less sleepy, and have shorter REM sleep. And again, because you increased cortisol when you don't want it to be. So yes, you want natural sunlight during the day. We saw that helps with keeping cortisol low before bed, but you don't want this artificial blue light before bed, because that keeps cortisol high before bed, this anti-stress hormone, and that makes you less sleepy at night. Takes you longer to fall asleep, and also reduces your quality of sleep. And Dr. Figueroa in New York showed that 2 hours of computer screen time before bed actually disrupts your melatonin release and can lead to chronic sleep rhythm disruption. So just like we saw that natural light exposure keeps melatonin high before bed, artificial light suppresses melatonin. So you want to get both natural light during the day or in the morning, between 6 to 8:30 in the morning is the best time, but during the day is also good. And you want to reduce artificial light, ideally an hour and a half before bed. So try to do something else. Read a book, do something you enjoy, talk to loved ones, right? There's so many things you can do except screen time. You can also use blue light filters on your devices, like Flux on Mac, Twilight, I think, on an Android phone. I might be wrong, but there's so many of them, blue light filters. And you can even wear something called the blue light blocking glasses. I actually use those kind of like an hour and a half as well, or 2 hours before bed when you begin winding down, to filter that blue light. If, for example, if you're using a screen before bed, ideally give yourself a screen curfew an hour and a half before. But if you have to use the screen, you can put a blue light filter, which is free, right? You can put Flux, or you can put Night Shift, or you can put whatever you have on your phone, right? If you have a Mac, you can use Flux. If you have an iPhone, I think you can use Night Shift. If you have an Android, you can use Twilight. But there's so much options. Just find the blue light filter that's present in your device. But if you absolutely have to use a device 90 minutes before bed, then put a filter. And for anything else, like the street light outside, there's so much other artificial light except from the phone, right? Because phone or screens are not the only sources. In those cases, you can block them with blue light glasses. So you can have both filters and blue light blocking glasses to filter blue light. So ideally, no screens an hour and a half before bed. And you can also put blue light blockers to make sure you're not getting blue light from street lights or from any other from your bulbs in your home. Another thing you can do is to change your bulbs in such a way such that they produce more of a warmer type of a red color. Because Harvard University showed that red doesn't suppress melatonin levels as much as blue light. So you can make those bulbs like red bulbs, or bulbs that filter blue light as well in your bedroom, for example, where you sleep, is also a good idea. So just to recap, make sure you know the value of sleep for your performance, for your decision making, for your cognition, for brain function, to make good decisions, to be able to cleanse the body and detox, and then to improve pretty much throughout so many levels, improving your immune system, hormone balance, pretty much to improve every system of your body, you need sleep. Then we talked about getting sunlight exposure during the day between 6 and 8:30 in the morning when it's most responsive, but also maybe during the day. So getting at least half an hour of sunlight is definitely a good idea for proper hormone levels and for proper circadian rhythm, as well as to avoid blue light, specifically before bed. Giving yourself that 90-minute curfew is also definitely a good idea, because blue light is shown to suppress melatonin before bed. But what you want is melatonin to be high. You want melatonin levels to be maintained before bed. So try to give yourself a screen curfew an hour and a half before bed.